Hello everyone, my name is Marie Gooch. It's my very great pleasure to be here today and sharing the safety message with you. Safe Farms has been around since 1994 and started by farmers for farmers. And we're here to help industry go home safely. We're here to provide tools and support. We're here to provide suggestions and direction on how you can implement safety systems. And some of those tools that we do provide make it really actually very simple for you to implement having a safety system. They've been put together by farmers and for farmers, and they have had quite a number of goes over by lawyers, insurers, trainers, farmers, and even other industry providers. So with no further ado, I'm going to share my screen so that you can see this presentation, and we're here to help you. And we have systems and support, tools, products, all sorts of things for you. Please don't hesitate to jump onto our website, which is www.safefarms.net.au, and or give us a call, email and give us a call. I'm going to share my screen. So here you can see the Safe Farms vision, and it's very much about supporting farmers to go home every day and make their workplace a very safe place. Reducing and preventing accidents and deaths, leading to improved productivity and well-being. So it's vital that we take home the safety message every day, and we make this our part of just everything that we do as we go along. Safe Farms is here to ensure and works very hard to ensure that everybody goes home safely. You do need to actually be on the bus and understand what a safety system is and why you have them, and they can even help you make more money on your farm or within your business. So when you understand about that, and I'm going to go through that shortly. Safe Farms WA started in 1994. It's here to lead and support the ag industry, raise awareness of occupational safety and health legislation, and also soon to be implemented work health and safety legislation, which is currently before the state parliament to align with national programs and the national legislation of work health and safety legislation. We provide simple, effective solutions and access to those. So as I said, they've been put together for farmers by farmers. Our programs and our systems align with quality assurance and audit programs, which is really important if you're out there in industry. In 2016, Safe Farms WA joined with Auschem Training, and it was two not-for-profits that came together to be stronger. So Auschem Training is a separate brand and a separate website providing accredited training through various registered training organisation, RTOs, here in Western Australia. And it's accredited training about transporting and using chemicals. We also offer online courses for 3 hours, which are using chemicals safely, and they're $99. That's through Safe Farms website and Auschem Training. So how do we manage it all? There's a lot to know. There are potentially 18 pieces of legislation that cross over into the agricultural industry. So there's a lot going on. The best way that we can really help ourselves is to make a list and chunk it down. If you're not a list person, maybe it's time to become a list person or find someone that can help you, and then work through that process, chunking it down bit by bit. Really important question to ask is, what are you putting at risk? What are you putting at risk? People's lives, a huge asset, and those that are in farming generally, there's a huge asset involved, the land and the value of that land, and the families and the communities. So what are you putting at risk, and what are the consequences if you don't have a safety system, or if you're not adhering to some kind of safety system? Noting that many of us are, we probably just don't have things written down. So that's where Safe Farms can help you. What are the consequences of not having a safety system in place? So if something happened and you don't have a safety system in place or can substantiate it, and the regulators come along and the lawyers come along, and you can't substantiate anything that you say you did, and it becomes he said, she said sort of situation, What are the consequences? You'll have certainly probably mental health issues and certainly health issues of the person who's been injured and those left behind. Potentially there's jail terms of 3 to 5 to 10 years or more, certainly with the implementation of work health and safety legislation and the impact of industrial manslaughter being part of that legislation. There are fines, potentially. Workers start at $50,000 for a first offence, a serious offence. And body corporates, I think you've a company, a trust, that sort of thing, they can start at about $250,000 and then go up to millions, like $10 million. And sadly, and really importantly, death. So there's maiming, there's injury, and there's death. So what are you putting at risk? And what are the consequences? I'll ask that question again, noting that in the top left-hand corner, 14 people were killed on quad bikes in Australia between January and the first week of July 2020. That is appalling. The person in the top right is a pastoralist and has adapted his life and his operation being a quadriplegic. Is that what you want? The child injured down the bottom left-hand corner, and then someone has been caught up in a hay baler in the bottom right-hand corner. Please don't let yourselves or anyone you know be a statistic. Sadly, 23% of worker fatalities happen in agriculture, and it's only around 2.3% of the workforce. These statistics are from Safe Work Australia, and we will be getting new ones when the new census information comes through. Very sadly, there are up to almost 80 people killed every year on farms in Australia. 80 people will not be celebrating with loved ones for Christmas and other events. Please don't be a statistic or anyone that you know. So I often hear, and a common objection is it's going to take too long. So if you're in farming, you probably should be noting that your time is worth that pretty much like an accountant. You're doing a fairly specialised job. It takes great skill, and you don't just learn it overnight. It's not the sort of thing that you can walk straight into if you're going to be successful in the ag industry. So ensure that you realise what your time is worth. It's going to cost too much. Is $25 too much to buy a first aid kit to be in each vehicle? Is around $150 or thereabouts too much to know what to do, having completed a first aid course, if you're the first responder? As a first responder to a serious accident a couple of times, you need to know what to do if you are that first responder when it comes to first aid. On the flip of that, what if it's you that's been injured? Do your team members know what to do if they are the first responders? So investing in your people and their training is really important. It's not going to make us any more money. Well, there's some common rules of thumb in banking, and I'll just move to those in a moment. The finance industry uses these common rules of thumb. A 1% increase in productivity can impact your EBIT, your earnings before interest and tax, by up to 10%. Now, according to university research, businesses with safety systems are up to 38% more productive. That's huge. So a 1% increase in productivity can impact your EBIT, your operating surplus, your pre-tax spending, they all mean the same thing, by up to 38%. The 1% increase in productivity can impact 10% in production. Now, if you were to reduce your variable input costs, so think chemicals due to efficiency, think insurance costs due to having a safety system in place and you've negotiated that with your insurer or your broker. Think wages and salary because you're more efficient and you are communicating more. A 1% decrease in your variable input costs, using those as an example, wages, chemical, fertiliser, insurance, can impact your EBIT, your earnings before interest and tax, by up to 15%. You do the sums on that one. Sadly, in Australia, it costs us as a nation $60 billion through direct and indirect costs of workplace injury and illness. Think physio, OTs, ambulance, Royal Flying Doctor Service. So many costs because of accidents. In Western Australia, the OSH Act of 1984 has been in for a really long time, 36 years to date, soon to be 37. The Work Health and Safety Bill will be coming in place. It's been through State Parliament in 2020 and it will be coming in place in WA to align with the rest of the nation in early 2021. There is no excuse for ignorance. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, sorry, I didn't know. There is no excuse. And the regulators will not take that as an answer. Consider what you're putting at risk and what are the consequences. $3 to $5 million in fines, 5, 10 years in jail. Not only is someone lost because of an accident or an injury, but another family loses potentially the main breadwinner or breadwinners if that's legislation and those penalties are implemented. Please, everyone, get your safety systems in place. This is a very simple process to follow and it's provided by Safe Work Australia. It's the national sort of body overarching all work health and safety. You identify hazards, you assess the risks and what are the impact of those, you control, manage or mitigate the risks, and then you review and maintain those control measures. What worked? What didn't work? What do we need to do differently? How do we control and manage the risk? At Safe Farms, we offer a couple of really simple matrices as part of the whole offering of what we offer in our full overarching safety system. We use a very simple matrix. What is the likelihood of something happening? And then what is the impact to our business and potentially our workers if something was to go wrong? Then we also use the hierarchy of control. It's about elimination, substitution, engineering, administrative, and then lastly PPE. So from the upside down pyramid, you start with elimination and you work down towards PPE, noting that if anyone's using chemicals, please, PPE gear, well-fitting PPE gear is very important. So here's how we do it with Safe Farms. We use this matrix and we identify the hazards. We assign a risk matrix level. So we go through what is the impact and how likely is it to occur. We look at possible control options. So what could we do differently? How can we do this? It's a great communication tool for you and your team members. What is our treatment strategy? So going back to that upside down pyramid of the hierarchy of control, it gets in your head, what is the way we're going to actually deal with this and treat it? Then we reduce, hopefully by applying that treatment strategy and those control options, what is our risk matrix after we do all of that? Who's going to do it? By when? And who's going to check it? So that constant review, is it working? Isn't it working? What else do we need to do differently? And here's an example. So prior to harvest, I think that this is being recorded in October. Prior to harvest in the broadacre grain industry, as an example. It could apply to lettuce picking, avocados, palm fruits, harvest of grapes, pastoral properties for mustering. It covers the whole spectrum. For this example, we're going to use a grain business. So there's pressure mounting with prices versus yield to meet contracts. So what would you do? So the risk matrix and the stress levels are pretty high. What would you do? So consider, this is what the team came up with. Speak to the company you've got the contract with. Speak to your financier. Consider sourcing grain from another source, a neighbour, an industry colleague who might be having a better year, better season, or be in a different zone, let's say, for grain delivery. The hierarchy of controls treatment strategy, back to that upside down pyramid, these are all engineering controls and basically probably also administrative controls. So we reduce the risk matrix down to medium. When's it going to happen? Who's going to do it? So we need all this to be happening by the 14th of November. And Sally, who's one of the management team of the farm, is going to make sure that she speaks to the company who's got the contract. By the 21st of November, Sally and Jim's the other manager on the property, they're going to have a teleconference and speak to their financier just to make sure everything's okay. They're also going to consider sourcing grain from another neighbour. Now, Jim knows quite a few people in the area, so he's going to take that one on board. Can you see the dates in there? They're not necessarily in any date order. However, by having a date, it gives Jim and Sally something to focus on to go, we've got to get that done by then, because the consequences are that it will impact our contract, and potentially our stress levels. So you can see that they've done a diary entry, they've got the calendar in their phone, and it's come up, and they're going to have a teleconference with the right people. Next one, there is a mountain of pre-harvest maintenance that still needs to be completed by the actual date of 15th of November when they're starting. It's actually starting to get a little bit overwhelming, and stress levels are starting to build up amongst the whole team, particularly Jim. So Jim's sort of in charge of the grain harvest this season. So also there's long repetitive days, and when you're tired and there's long repetitive days, then accidents can happen because people just get a bit tired and potentially get used to the repetitive way of doing work. So the risk level is medium to high. So this is when accidents happen. Possible treatment options. So they've gathered the team together and gone, right, what can we do? What can we do? So someone came up with a management plan and a schedule of what maintenance needs to happen for each vehicle that's going to be used for harvest. Then they went through, let's prioritise according to the skill set of the team and that schedule of maintenance that needs to happen. Then they decided to delegate the skill set. So this is all pretty common sense, one would think, but one person's common sense is very different to another person's common sense. If the team doesn't have the skills, then it might be time to actually outsource. So thinking of a mechanic of some sort. So these are all engineering and administrative controls. So after we go through, thinking of that upside down pyramid, after we go through this, we would potentially bring the risk matrix level down to medium to low, or hopefully. So on the 1st of November, Jim, being in charge of grain, he's going to plan it on the workshop whiteboard, daily, weekly, so really chunking it down so that everybody knows every single thing that needs to be done. But it's out there for everyone to see and everyone to help. And so one person might finish doing their jobs. They can say, do you need a hand, Jim, to go and do this other work? Which is like, yes, please, thanks very much. So on the 6th of November, Sally, Jim and Fred's the head workman from the sheep part of the business. They're all coming together to say, right, where are we at, and checking in. So we've got 5 days on and they're coming back together. On the 11th of November, another 5 days, so prior to the 15th of November start date, they've already checked in. They've got Jim, Sally, Fred. They've got 2 backpackers, Luigi, who's Italian, who hasn't gone home because of COVID, and Sean, he's Irish, and he hasn't gone home either. But Sean is a header mechanic, so that's very handy. So they're doing their delegation and they're assigning the task according to the skill set. Sally's also taken it to the next step and made the call, took 5 minutes to ensure about the availability of a header mechanic if they need one in those couple of weeks prior to the 15th of November. Sally's also taken it on board that while she's at it, she'll just check all the PPE gear, make sure everybody's got their boots, make sure that they've got their first aid done. If not, they can do an online course. And then Sally's taking it just that extra level, and she's going to make sure that all of the first aid kits are up to date in all of the vehicles. So it's a team effort. So this is a great way to ensure that your team gets to know how you work through things. They might have worked on a farm before, but have they worked on your farm? So importantly, and to consider, what are you putting at risk and what are the consequences? You've got a tired worker using a power takeoff shaft. It gets the shirt, wasn't buttoned up. It got caught in the power takeoff shaft. So if you haven't seen a power takeoff shaft, it's got a tractor, a power takeoff shaft, which oscillates very, 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 very quickly, not my arm, but very quickly. And then it's attached to another implement like a super spreader or something similar. So just using this as an example, your worker gets their shirt caught, it pulls in their arm and it gets ripped off at the shoulder. So the impact to that, what are you putting at risk and what are the consequences? Thinking about physical. The arm is actually ripped off at the shoulder. There's multiple operations, ghost pains, and a lot of recovery is required. Years and years of recovery. The financial impact. The injured person can't work for at least 2 years. There was no key man insurance, so thinking if this was a management worker and you're not paying them wages, you're paying them a drawing, let's say. However, by the way, if you are paying wages, by law, you must have workers' compensation insurance in Australia. So be very, very careful about that. If you're paying contractors, make sure that you cite their certificate of currency of insurance about their own insurances. And it's quite okay for you to ask those prior to any contracting happening. Back to the financial costs, no insurance. Cost of rehab, including physio, occupational therapy, medical bills, the cost to travel to medical support, the cost to the person who needs to take this person with no arm to medical support. They might have to take time off work. And that's either on the farm or in an off-farm situation. The emotional impact. So the worker actually has post-traumatic stress disorder. The business owner has post-traumatic stress disorder because they actually found them and needed to administer first aid there and then. Your resilience can be depleted. The effect on the family members left behind over years. No one really stops and thinks about all of this sort of thing. The effect on the local ambulance volunteers who attended the accident and the incident. So they're things that you just need to stop and think about. What are you putting at risk and what are the consequences? So who's responsible for work health and safety in the workplace? Honestly, everyone. Employers have a specific legal obligation and duty of care to uphold to make sure the workplace is safe and that everyone is safe. They provide inductions. Inductions are a great way to understand skill gaps and knowledge gaps. By law, you must provide training information, sometimes verbal. Can everyone remember what happens verbally? That's where you do either some online training or attend face-to-face training or attend a webinar like Safe Farms has got. We've got a library of webinars about fire safety, firearm safety, chemical safety, working alone, working fatigued or not. So workers also have a specific legal obligation and duty to uphold. That is, they must ensure the workplace is safe for themselves and for everyone that they work with. So really, it's everybody's responsibility. Working alone and when you're tired can really impact how you operate. Noting that in Australia, often they're large land holdings, and even if you're on a small land holding, and it could be farming quite intensively, or it might be a small land holding which is a lifestyle block, you might be working alone. So it's really important that everybody knows where you are and that you have regular check-ins. And it might be that you check in occasionally with people, 20 minutes, half an hour, just to make sure that everyone's okay. Cannot stress it enough. Fatigue can affect people's stress levels and the way that they operate. It can impair their judgment and their anticipation and how they react. So you can see there, and this is from university research, there is a cycle of fatigue. You can't actually cope with things that cause you stress either. So going back to that risk control plan of you're stressed, you're tired, you've got all these jobs to do, your resilience is going to be depleted, you've got to find a way. So after working a shift at work, you can see how that after 3 hours at work, probably based on nutrition, so it's important to have really good nutrition as well, that the risk increases, goes down again maybe after morning tea, goes back up again prior to lunch, goes down again after lunch, sort of bumps up again as well towards the end of the 8-hour workday. But you can see what happens at the impact of a 9, 10, 11 hours, 12 hours at work. You're 2.5 more times likely to be putting yourself and others at risk after this many hours on duty. So inductions, they're a great way to find out about knowledge gaps. They're a great way to find out about how people think. People might have worked on a farm, but have they worked on your farm? Really important question. What are you putting at risk and what are the consequences? You will probably have an asset worth upwards of $500,000, if not multi-million dollars. What are you putting at risk and what are the consequences? Because if things go wrong, the people with the asset are usually the first ones that get tapped on the shoulder. Make sure everyone knows their roles and responsibilities to themselves and others, workers as well. So in summary, your employer responsibilities are to ensure the workplace is safe. Consider your buildings, your infrastructure, all of your equipment and machinery. If there's a guard missing, replace it. Not negotiable. Just fix it. Once you realise and appreciate and accept that something is no longer hypothetical, then your insurance probably won't cover you. So be very, very careful on not doing things. You might like to invite WorkSafe to come on board and do an appraisal. Yes, you might get a few work notices, but think of it as a way, a positive, of actually getting things in place and up to speed. Don't be scared. We are here and we are happy to provide you with lots of tools, help and support, and phone calls even. And certainly when we're implementing our safety system with you so that it becomes yours, we do one-on-one, face-to-face Zoom calls. What are your work procedures? What's done, when, how? The Safe Farm system has policies, checklists, guides, all sorts of things. The guides can become the workplace procedures. The physical environment, thinking of the lighting, ventilation, dust, heat in Australia, and noise. The psychological environment, make sure that you are considering your workers' stress, fatigue, hurrying, long time on the job. That's when people drop their guard and accidents happen. In summary, for employees, you must ask for information, ask for an induction. If there isn't one, ask them to call us. We've got inductions ready to go. It's part of our whole safety system. Training, information, it's really important that if you don't know how to do something, you can't fake it till you make it. Please don't ever fake it till you make it, because something will go wrong probably and you will become unstuck. You are responsible for yourself and the safety of everyone that you work with. Safe Farms has a comprehensive system. Think of it as an umbrella, and then underneath it are all of the actual pieces that you need of the puzzle to bring together, have a safety system. We've had these out since 2016 and we've sold hundreds of them. We're also looking at a green card for ag safety and trialling that at the moment. So this is designed for the entire ag industry to use as a benchmark. It's aligned with accredited training and it's 9 modules. And it's a bit like the white card for construction. It's a bit harder because it's a higher level of competency and also there's more modules, but it can be done in a number of hours. So it's online and we will be offering that very soon. We have webinars and workshops. We have a library of webinars for our full members to access and workshops as well that you can attend either online or offline, including using chemicals safely is a 3-hour online course for $99. So, thank you everyone for joining me. It's been a pleasure to have you join me today. And please, at all times, everyone, be safe. Consider what you're putting at risk and what are the consequences. What you walk past is what you accept. And we're here to help you at Safe Farms, safefarms.net.au. Thank you.